Nintendo finally released an achievement system. Kind of. The latest Nintendo Direct, they announced the DK Challenge, a Donkey Kong themed event where you can take on a host of challenges spanning a variety of Donkey Kong titles. Completing a challenge nets you a digital card and bragging rights that are sure to take you far in this world. It's not quite the achievement system people have been hoping Nintendo would finally add to their platform, but it's as close as we'll probably get. One other thing about this old DK Challenge is that it's a limited time event, so we only have until September 1st to grab those hot-ass JPEGs. Surely, Nintendo will make this a rotating event though, right? They wouldn't do anything ridiculous like put in all of this work to build a challenge, then never let it see the light of day only to be memorialized in stupid YouTube videos like this one, right? Well, before this whole thing disappears, I intend to complete the DK Challenge. And after what Donkey Kong did to me on Minecart Madness in Osaka, somebody needs to put this Kong back in his place. So, join me today as we complete Nintendo's weird-ass, not really achievement system, but kind of achievement system, the DK Challenge. There are two primary parts of the DK Challenge: Nintendo Classics, which go through most of Donkey Kong's retro catalog, and Donkey Kong Bananza, an assortment of challenges catered to DK's most recent Switch 2 outing. I'm starting with the classics, and we pick up with Donkey Kong Country's first level. The music is hitting, the barrels are rolling, the letters are spelling, and before you know it, Challenge 1 is done and dusted. Sure, we only had to get to the end of the level, but as my grandfather used to say, for every platinum trophy comes a few bronzes. The next challenge is also another level to complete, and upon completing that, I find that so is the next one, and the one after that, and you get where this is going.
That's it?
All of the Nintendo Classic challenges are just completing a random level from a classic DK title. I guess I didn't know what else to expect. It's not like the DK Challenge was going to be the Schindler's List of Donkey Kong themed limited time challenge events, but maybe a little bit more creativity would have been cool to see. Case in point, in Super Mario RPG, there's a special suit you get after landing 100 consecutive jumps with Mario's super jump ability. I thought that they have little challenges like that. Maybe make players clear Donkey Kong Country's oil drum alley without using Rambi, or jump over X number of barrels in Donkey Kong Arcade before making it to the top. I don't want to come out of the gate mega negative on this. The DKC games are especially fun, so it was cool to go through the levels they picked, and I sure as hell would have never touched Donkey Kong Jr. Math on my own.
The numbers, basically. What do they mean?
Just something a little bit more creative with the classics would have been cool to see. Another weird thing about the Nintendo Classics challenges is that you can just rewind if you want. To keep the purity of the challenge, you have to self-govern and personally decide that you will not rewind. Even then, if you die, the challenge itself will ask you if you would like to rewind rather than just automatically take you back to the beginning. I'm not really trying to be sweaty about it. I'm not losing sleep if little Jimmy is being a bitch and rewinding the DK Challenge of all things, but doing so kind of de-emphasizes the challenge part of this challenge. Over the course of about an hour or so, I ran through all of the levels that were selected, earning my high-quality JPEGs, and I guess getting a nice little appetizer sampler in the form of some retro DK action. The last challenge in the Classics series was the original fight against King K. Rool. I picked up Donkey Kong Country more times than I can count over the years, but never made it to the finish, so this was actually the first time I saw the fight. Believe it or not, I did get got by the fake credits, and it took me a few tries to take the old croc down. I won't lie, after this boss, I really think that you could seriously say Donkey Kong Country is the dark side. After completing all of the Classics challenges, we're rewarded with an even bigger JPEG. Neat! Next up is the Donkey Kong Bananza side of things, and I was really curious how they were going to get this aspect working. For the classics, you just hit a start button and it would drop you directly into the game at the necessary level, so I expected something similar here. But this is actually more of a traditional achievements list like you would find on other platforms. You read the challenge description, boot the game yourself, seek the challenge out, and get rewarded as you clear it. That's perfectly fine because I'm assuming they just use save states for the classic emulators and don't have the same tech available for the newer title. Something to note though is that the DK Challenge can only be accessed via the Nintendo Switch Online application on the Switch's home screen. So if I want to double check what challenge I need to do, I have to go back to the home screen, click the NSO button, wait for that to load, then click the DK Challenge option, navigate to the challenge I want, click on that, and then finally get the details of what I'm trying to do. I know it doesn't sound that crazy and it only maybe takes 30 seconds seconds from start to finish, but when you have to do this over and over again, you really start to feel every extra second. This is particularly annoying for Bananza because challenges are attached to specific in-game levels, and if you don't know where the required level is off the top of your head, you'll want to use the location hint to find it on the map. That meant if I messed up or got confused about where the level actually was, I'd have to go through the whole process all over again. It was actually a pain in the ass. You can't even access the DK challenge info from the Nintendo Switch phone app, which who the fuck uses that or any of their other applications, but I would have absolutely loved to have been using it over the built-in NSO app. Something nice I can say is that a decent number of the Bananza challenges unlocked right out of the gate for me, since I had already done them on my save. I had all the progress-based challenges completed from finishing the game on that file, and then there were challenges attached to the nostalgia levels in Bananza. This is great because although I thought I'd seen all of those levels, I was actually missing one, so it was a nice way to catch some content that I'd miss. Another group of challenges was just based on using the abilities from DK's various transformations, which I knew I'd get through playing, so I wasn't that worried about those. That left us with 10 proper challenges to tackle: the time challenges and the developer challenges. So I figured we'd just go down the list and knock them out as they come. The first challenge requires us to clear the level Kong Bananza City Smash with 40 seconds remaining on the clock. What? I gotta be hustling real hard then, and I do, over and over, with my best run still leaving me at 35 seconds. I have no idea how to do this natty until I realized you can just charge up the Kong Bananza's punch and do some damage before actually entering the time gate. So the strat isn't to just hustle as fast as you can, it's to clear out as much as you can before entering the time gate so that when you do enter, you actually have a fighting chance to clean it up. Even with this strat, it takes me a few tries to settle my route, but eventually I get my first time challenge done, and this is what I'm talking about. This one actually felt like a, well, unique challenge. Something I would have never thought to do on my own because I've lost all of the imagination and wonder in my cold adult heart. We move on to the skate and attack challenge, and let me tell you, the hardest part of this one was finding where the gosh dang thing even was. Once I got there though, I knocked it out pretty quick. The next few all had a similar life cycle. Find the challenge on the map, maybe grab a banana or two on the way. Do the challenge in a few tries, rinse and repeat. It was fun! The challenges felt worth doing, and a lot of them were in earlier levels I hadn't revisited since completing the game, so I was actually doing a bunch of stuff outside of the challenges themselves. This is what made the whole event come together for me, giving players a reason to go back to a game that came out last year and give them a way to interact with the game in a new way. I get it. After I wrapped up my last time challenge, it was time to move on to the developer challenges. Now the first one wasn't too bad. It was another demolition challenge to keep 40 seconds on the clock, except this time we could use any Bananza transformation. I'm not really sure why this was a developer challenge and not a time challenge, but Nintendo just kind of playing jazz with this whole thing. But then it was time for Rambi Rumble Rowdy Race. 55 seconds, 3 laps, Rambi's sweet little ass. I know what you're thinking. This course is way too big to do 3 laps in 55 seconds. That fact becomes abundantly clear after 1 lap. The strat, though, is to make your own course. You see, Rambi here likes to eat dirt, and as he does, this little rainbow gauge starts to fill, and we can activate our barrel launchers. The jetpack will release a rainbow material that remains throughout the entire race, so you really just need to make it around this initial turn and then get yourself across the course to the finish line, and crossing it will count as a lap down. I knew what I had to do. That wasn't the hard part. I was just really bad at this particular challenge. I don't know if I was just rusty or if this was actually a hard challenge because it was over an hour of me and Rambi doing the same thing over and over again. Run through. Eat dirt until Diddy and Dixie turn it into mud. Use the rockets to try and propel over the course. Bucket up, start over, repeat. I felt like I was doing something wrong because I just had a single strat that I needed to work with and no idea as to how anything else could possibly work. Eventually though, we got the run. Seeing Rambi's little bum fly through the sky was a sight to behold, and I earned that new JPEG, baby. Next up was completing a bonus stage with over 6,000 gold on completion. The worst part about this one was that every time you failed, you'd have to leave the world and come back to reset it before trying again. I also ran it so many times before realizing I wasn't wearing Pauline's special outfit. Stupid me, right? This outfit lets you collect double the gold you normally would. Without it, this challenge is impossible, but with it, you're looking at maybe 2 tries at most. After completing it, I was a whole lot richer, which was good because I was going to need that gold for the last 2 challenges. I should say, the last 2 challenges in the Bananza group are the challenges of the DK challenge. I spent 3 hours on just these 2 challenges alone. The first is a boss rush. It takes you through 5 of the game's bosses and requires you to kill them without dying. Simple enough, right? Well, the main point of this challenge is that you need to disable all of Donkey Kong's skills first, then complete the boss rush. Health and strength upgrades, transformation upgrades, apple and mango juice quantity upgrades, it's all gone. It's just you, base Donkey Kong, and the base version of his transformations.
I'm nothing without this suit.
If you're nothing without this suit, then you shouldn't have it.
Luckily, you can wear clothes with skills, so something like Pauline's Prime Feast outfit, which gradually recovers health during Bananzas, is allowed. And with those ground rules established, we begin. The first boss was this fire slug dude. He'd cover himself in lava like a dirty little boy and roll towards you. You needed to throw this white stuff, presumably cocaine, at him to disrupt his attacks. He'd lose control as men on cocaine do, hit the side of the arena, and get buried under debris. You'd have to dig him out, and then he'd try to escape while you get your damage in, usually by throwing something at him in his vulnerable form. I learned pretty quickly that the Elephant Bananza was going to be the star of this show. The trunk was too efficient at clearing everything from him after he lost control, and outside of the first round, I don't think you could break the stone fast enough as base Donkey Kong without his upgrades. I died a few times when I first started, but luckily this boss wasn't too much of a wall for me, and we moved on pretty quickly. Next up was Mr. Vine Man, and this boss was hard fucking me up. It just took me way too long to find a good flow. First, I couldn't figure out how to get across the mud without taking too much damage, and then it was the same story with the bouncy blue veins. It had also been so long since I played Bananza that I kind of forgot about that neat magic trick where gold refills your Bananza meter, and how swapping transformations right as the Bananza bar depletes lets you maintain form without needing to beat your chest. Once I got my bearings for the boss, it was just a matter of execution. Every time I died, I'd have to go back and take out the fire slug dude before giving it another go, which is really what made nailing this fight so long. Eventually though, we got there, and then Mommy Moth hit. Mommy Moth is the primary reason that I have trust issues. I hate this fight, and never really knew that about myself until this challenge. You're in a tub of water as Aldi's brand Mothra summons electric shocks from the skies above. The shocks though don't fall randomly, nah man. They lock onto your location, and you just have a second or so to get out of the way before the electricity strikes. While that's going on, your whole goal is to hit this dude's wings, jump on him, and take him out. The problem is that the electricity hits real hard, as in you're basically dead if it gets you. The other problem is that if you're standing in the water when the electricity strikes, all of the water gets electrocuted. And if you're not standing on a platform out of water, you will take shock damage. Even after you get him down, the electric strikes don't stop, so you have to be mindful of where you land him and where you're standing while you're attacking. Otherwise, you'll die while trying to kill him. The hardest part is that everything happens so quickly. By the time I think maybe I kind of had a strategy going, I'd be dead and back at the start of the boss rush. I still wasn't one-shotting the previous boss either. Plenty of fights against him took me out, so there was a decent amount of time between pulls for the Moth guy, which made learning the fight so difficult. Eventually though, I did get him, with some
Sheer dumb luck.
and could move on to the second to last boss. This one actually wasn't too bad. You just needed to throw salt on this dumbass slug thing. The strat was simple. Be an elephant, gather some salt, throw it at him enough times so he becomes a punchable thing, and do that 3 times. He'd get increasingly aggressive, so the hardest part was just field control on the center platform, but if you were just a little careful, it wasn't too hard to get around him. The worst part of this boss was getting here. I only died on him twice before beating him, but I had so many pulls in between because the third boss was a constant barrier, and whenever I did take it down, it felt like a random lucky pull. Eventually though, I got the slug, and it was time for the final boss. I was expecting King K. Rool here, I'm not gonna lie, which would have been a real tough end because man, that boss fight is super long and I don't know how I would have done it without my skills. But I was pleasantly surprised when it was just a big dumb alligator head dude. I guess this boss was just a reward after the hell of getting here. He walks around with his big grippers, destroying the stage. You then use the gold underneath, which for some reason I thought was lava, so I kept avoiding it, to destroy his armor. Then you kill him. Yep, that's it. I didn't die on him. I don't want to brag, but I was pretty good at Donkey Kong Bananza by this point. And with his death came our second to last challenge card. All in all, the boss rush took me a little over 3 hours. I thought my controller was going to fly across the room on some of those deaths, but thanks to prices like these, I kept it Christian. The final challenge was to complete the final rehearsal, also without any skills unlocked. You know the moon level? No, not that moon. The Mario Odyssey moon level? This is basically Bananza's version of that. It's a pure platforming challenge that forces you to use all of your transformations to make it through. Like at this opening section. Normally, the ostrich transformation would have bomb eggs that you could drop on these thorns to clear a path, but no unlocks meant no eggs, so I had to look for a different way through the vines. Every section was like that. It forced you to think outside the obvious solution and get through the obstacle in a way you hadn't done before. There wasn't a crazy strat here, you just develop your own approach for each section and try to get a little bit further with every run. You'd die quick, so there wasn't a lot of room for trial and error, making the whole thing an inch-by-inch situation. One thing about this challenge, though, was that I absolutely needed to lean on the fact that we could carry one of each juice. The apple juice would automatically restore health, and the fruit juice would restore the Bananza gauge. In order to buy this, though, we had to run out of the boss rush, head over to the little store dude, and purchase our items before running back to the boss rush. This added like an extra minute or so between each attempt, which, just like navigating to the NSO application, added a lot of time. But, just like the boss rush before it, we finally got the perfect run, and with that, the DK challenge was complete. The DK challenge was weird. On one hand, I really enjoyed the boss rush and final rehearsal challenges in Bananza, and I enjoyed just playing this game again for a few hours after not touching it much since I had beat it last year. In that regard, it was worth doing. On the other hand, it felt like a lot of random busy work, especially with the classic titles. It was fun to have a reason to jump into the older games, I guess, but I wish there was more creativity to be found here. Nintendo often does random stuff like this and never revisits it, so I have no idea if the future holds a potential Mario or Zelda challenge, or in 5 years, if we'll all be saying, remember the DK challenge? That was weird. Like so many other things Nintendo does. I'm looking at you, Year of Luigi. So, have you taken the time to do the DK challenge? If so, what did you find the hardest and what's your favorite JPEG? Let me know in the comments, and as always, thank you so much for watching. And consider liking the video or subscribing to the channel. Take it easy, and see you next time.